Next up, the red-hot Alouettes, winners of 5 straight, welcome the Blue Bombers in a potential Eastern semifinal preview. Winnipeg, by the way, resting 8 of their starters. In Montreal, they're resting their top priority in Davis Alexander. But look at those fans. My goodness. Gotta love it in Winnipeg. And you know what? Kudos to Winnipeg. This is the first time they have sold out every single regular season game. Absolutely incredible. You know Enoch Mwamba. You know Milt Stegall. But welcome to the panel, Davaris Daniels. Here we are. Welcome. And so we know you're a 3-time Grey Cup champion. You know you're great on the field, and we're excited to have you here today. But Milt, I want to let you know that is a Grey Cup ring. See what that is? Do you want to see it?
It's a little heavy.
Hand it off to him. You went out like, I don't want to touch your ring.
Oh, yeah, I got a replica in the back.
That's so kind. That's so kind. And by the way, already the best dressed, I might add.
I'll give it to him.
Baby. Yeah. I'll give him to that one.
Looking good.
Okay, Davaris, I'm gonna start with you on this game here. So you got the Montreal Alouettes, you get the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Look, we know all the starters that are being rested in this game. Obviously, a top priority is keeping everyone healthy. But what do you think these two teams are doing today in terms of analyzing one another?
I think the most important thing is coming out of this game healthy, but I think the one thing that you want to see is your backup guys come in here and execute your game plan to the best that they can do. I think that what you learn in a game like this that doesn't mean anything is not so much. You don't really take too much from either team. They're not going to run the majority of their stuff. They're going to keep it very basic, but you do want to see McLeod Bethel-Thompson come out here and execute the offense and along with Strevler and just send a message into the playoffs of, what kind of game it's going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. This game plan is going to be pretty vanilla on both sides, and I do agree with you, Davaris. I think McLeod Bethel-Thompson is one of the most important pieces right here for the Montreal Alouettes because Davis Alexander is a guy that plays with a lot of edge, and we saw him last week when, he got hurt a couple of times. He keeps fighting. We know that. We appreciate that, and we admire what he does. But, hey, a suitable backup, a guy that's been there and that's done that is kind of key to be able to see that from McLeod.
I can't believe you guys said this game means nothing. It means something. These Winnipeg fans, they're showing up, baby.
Yeah, they are.
And people are going to say, oh, you're just being biased. You're a Bomber. I speak 2 languages, English and facts, baby. And the facts are these Bomber fans are the best in the CFL. Wade Miller has created a great atmosphere there along with that staff. And these Bomber fans are the best. They are the best. They're better than Toronto. They're better than Montreal. They're better than Saskatchewan. They're better than Calgary, Edmonton, Cincinnati, Atlanta, everyone.
Okay.
Let's go. Don't want you for the weekend. Don't want you for a night. I'm only interested if I can have you for life.
Roland Furtanis of Edmonton, Alberta. This is your chance to win big. Thanks to Save On Foods $1 million touchdown to win. If a kickoff is returned for a touchdown, you could win groceries for a year. If 2 kickoffs are returned for touchdowns, you could also win $1 million. Good luck, Roland. Let's get you to Winnipeg. It's Rod Smith and Dwayne Ford.
On a beautiful day, Kate Burness here in southern Manitoba, we welcome you to Winnipeg. Not the last game in this city this year. Last regular season game of the Grey Cup, 3 weeks away. 2 teams heading to the playoffs who may just end up meeting next week in a game that matters even more on the road to getting back here, Dwayne. And yet in this one, a lot of key players are sitting for both sides. The latest news, Davis Alexander out, McLeod Bethel-Thompson in for Montreal.
Yeah, and not shocking news, obviously. Teams trying to limit the risk of injury to their starters at this point, but as well, obviously trying to make sure, knowing the Canadian Football League, you need more than one quarterback to win. You want to make sure that your backups are sharp and ready to go as well. So important reps for both those guys.
Interesting situation for Mike O'Shea. It's been like that all year. I mean, the Bombers won the West 4 straight years, but remember in 2019, they finished 3rd. They had to go on the road for 2 playoff games and then got into the Grey Cup and won it all. So O'Shea's hoping for a repeat of that, but will it be in Montreal next week or in Calgary? That is still to be determined. The Bombers have to win to have a chance of staying in the West. It's Peyton Logan on the return after Montreal won the toss and deferred. So it is Winnipeg football, and Chris Strevler with his 4th start of the season coming up here.
Yeah, interesting year, certainly. for Chris Streveler as the starting quarterback in Winnipeg. Comes in with a 3-1 record, having thrown nearly twice as many interceptions as touchdowns. So finding ways to get it done has sort of been the specialty when it's been Strev under center.
He started in the Bombers' first game back in week 2 against BC, got the win in that one. And here to mop up the end of the regular season, Zach Collaros getting some rest. And handing off to Matthew Peterson, who's getting the start at running back instead of Brady Oliveira.
Yeah, and you'll notice a few changes along that offensive line as the game goes on. In the starting lineup, it's Micah Vanterpool in place of the veteran Stanley Bryant for this one. And you just saw Matthew Peterson, the rookie from the University of Alberta, replacing Brady Oliveira in this regular season finale.
His best game in this rookie year was in week 2, the Bombers' first game, when he replaced Oliveira, went over 100 yards rushing. Picks it up there. It's low, but he takes off after that, and Tyrese Beverette takes him down, a key part of that Alouettes defense.
Yeah, no question about that. As we take a look at that group, their nominee for most outstanding defensive player this season, Isaac Adeyemi-Berglund, also their top Canadian. Najee Murray, longest serving defender on this Alouettes team. A couple of interceptions for him last week in the win against Ottawa. Deontay Ruffin in at the boundary corner. It's been a great depth player for them. He's in for Lorenzo Burns this week.
Chris Streveler in his 4th year out of South Dakota, at a number of years away in the NFL, coming back last year, handing off to Peterson, and not much there. Stuffed up Darnell Sankey, one of the defensive leaders of the Alouettes. He's there, and so too is Adeyemi-Berglund.
And you know, Darnell Sankey, regardless of whether the game means anything in the standings or not to his team, is always going to perform with a certain level of intensity.
Second meeting of the season between these two teams. They met back in Montreal in week 12, and the Bombers won that game. 2nd and 8 now. Streveler with time to throw, and no, misses his receiver. That is Alexander Cam Eccles, number 15, who is making his Bomber debut, former Calgary Stampeder.
And you get a look at Chris Streveler's view here. See Montreal keeping it pretty vanilla in terms of the defensive front on that one. 4-man rush, no twist to get things started in this ball game. Again, two teams considering the possibility that they may meet again in a playoff game in a week. Just beyond the outstretched fingers of Cam Eccles,
who played 12 games with the Stampeders last year. So Sergio Castillo comes on. This will be a 48-yard try. He's 44 of 50 on the season. That one tucks it in inside the right upright. And just a few plays into this regular season finale, the Bombers are on the board. The Castillo field goal. And so it'll be over to Montreal, and McLeod Bethel-Thompson decided late this afternoon that he will get the start instead of Davis Alexander. Veteran quarterback McLeod Bethel-Thompson making his 8th start this season. In for Davis Alexander, a 3-4 record, thrown for over 1,500 yards.
Yeah, McLeod Bethel-Thompson has obviously proven to be a valuable pickup for Montreal, providing veteran depth at that quarterback position, with Davis Alexander having missed significant stretches this season. 68th career start in the CFL for MBT.
This is the first season in Montreal for Bethel-Thompson. Low snap in the first down, and he just tries to get rid of it and does to Stevie Scott while he was being sacked. So good job by Bethel-Thompson to turn that into something as Scott. But a great game last week in Ottawa, takes it in for a Montreal first down.
And good poise here for Bethel-Thompson. As you can see, things kind of go wrong right from the get-go. He's got to dodge one. Jaden Woodby on his back. He's able to shuffle that off to Stevie Scott and somehow turn that mess into a first down for the Owls.
Just across the Alouette 50, their first possession. They know they're second place in the East this year, regardless of the outcome today. Scott, the running back again, with injuries to Travis Tice and Sean Thomas Erlington, getting a lot more work on the ground for Montreal.
As we look at this group, Des Holmes in the lineup at right guard in place of Donnie Ventrelli. And Tyler Sneed, who had been a game-time decision with this game not affecting the Alouettes' position in the standings. Sneed, their top receiver this season, will sit. The veteran Alex Hollins makes the start in his place.
For his 5th appearance for the Alouettes this season. Hollins throwing off to the right, Bethel Thompson. That is caught right at the first down marker for Tyson Philpott. They discuss whether or not he was in, and they're saying no catch, ruled an incomplete pass.
Yeah, Philpott just ran out of real estate on this one. Right along the sidelines in front of that Bomber bench.
Jason Moss has got a new deal. Him and Danny Machocha, contract extensions. The job they've done in Montreal. Grey Cup champions 2 years ago. First in the East last year. Back in the playoffs this time around. It is Joseph Zima to punt, and back for it, Peyton Logan doing the returns as they rest Trey Vavel today, taking it inside the 10 and up near the 20, out at about the 19 for the Bombers, who in their first possession worked it down with Chris Streveler and picked up a field goal.
Take a look at what Chris Streveler has done for the Bombers this season. You see almost 1,100 passing yards. Best known, of course, for what he does with his feet, whether it's in short yardage or just as a changeup in that regular offense. Over 300 rushing yards this season. Number 2 rusher on the squad, behind, of course, Brady Oliveira.
Starting deeper in his own zone, inside the 20, Streveler again with time, lots of it. And now looks to take off, and coming in to get him is Isaac Adeyemi Berglund. And Streveler looks to be hurt. Still on the turf after that hit by Adeyemi Berglund.
Yeah, clutching that left knee. It looked like he may have had some trouble with the knee as he tried to cut inside of the oncoming defender. Just wonder if that knee collapsed on him a little bit. Gave out as he tries to duck back inside here. And you could see he was kind of hopping on one leg. He makes a hard plant here. Fake to the outside. You could see right away his feet stopped dead and he was grabbing that leg.
And not looking good for Chris Streveler. Terry Wilson, number 3, warming up the head in this game as he needs help to get off the field. Back in Winnipeg, we have a quarterback change, an injury to Chris Streveler early in this game. In comes Terry Wilson, 40, who has only thrown 1 pass in the regular season. That was last year, none this year, but he did get into the the Grey Cup, I should say, at quarterback for Winnipeg briefly in the second half last November.
Yeah, well, so an opportunity, particularly if the Streveler injury proves to be something serious, and obviously it didn't look great as he was helped off the field. I mean, Streveler has a role in this offense, and so Terry Wilson could become a very important guy all of a sudden, so valuable playing time for him.
Wilson gets a rep and shovel underneath, and it goes incomplete. First play from scrimmage for Wilson, and that ends up being a 2nd and 10 coming up.
Yeah, it looked like that. Keep an eye on the running back here, Matthew Peterson, as this appeared to be a shovel pass intended for him, but Lual Uguak, and it crashed things down off the edge, and the shovel was a little short, but Peterson would have been swallowed up immediately. You saw the ball came off the hand of the quarterback awkwardly there and made it a tough catch to begin with.
So Jamison Sheehan will have to punt it away from his 5. Takes a hop. Tyson Philpott on the returns, picks it up and gets it up across the Alouette 45. Austin Mack, a big part of the Alouettes offense 2 years ago when they won the Grey Cup, and looked very good in his most recent game against the Ottawa Red Blacks.
Yeah, Austin Mack, touchdown catch in that ball game, just a 2nd touchdown catch of the year, but over 100 yards receiving for him in that one. 2nd time this season he's gone over 100. Could it be this 2023 star is heating up at the right time?
McLeod Bethel Thompson, pump fake, intercepted. Tony Jones right to him, takes it and the Stars in the middle of that Bomber defense has his second interception of the season.
Well, Tony Jones has kind of done it all. Nominally the middle linebacker, but here you see him coming off the edge, just hanging back. He's reading the eyes of the quarterback. Basically cherry picking underneath that route from Tyson Philpott on the outside. Easy pickings for Tony Jones.
So Terry Wilson, the Bombers of the ball in the Alouette zone, starting with the 39. And Mustafa Johnson says no further to Matthew Peterson. And then a word there for the center, Chris Kolinkowski, as Winnipeg doesn't get much there.
Well, Mustafa Johnson, one of a number of key Owls who missed significant time this season. You know, and I think this contributes to a lot of the Owls' success down the stretch, was getting people back, but some of those people finding their stride.
In his first game back, they did lose to the Ticats, continuing the losing streak. Since then, with Mustafa Johnson back in the lineup, they've won 5 in a row. Trying to make it 6 today to wrap up the regular season. Wilson throwing open receivers, got it. Jarrett Stearns. First completion for Terry Wilson, and a big first down for Winnipeg down around the Montreal 15.
And Jarrett Stearns coming out of the slot just outside the hash mark. Pushes the defender deep. Bending it out to catch that one in front of Deontay Evans. And that's the kind of throw that'll give Terry Wilson a little bit of confidence. Again, came in having not thrown a pass yet. Game action in 2025.
First and 10, deep in the zone. Throwing again, end zone down near it. It's caught. Another first down, just shy of the end zone. Back to Stearns again. First and goal coming up, Winnipeg.
You see, Wilson makes a nice adjustment here to kind of pull up. Isaac has Adeyemi Berglund in his face. He knows he's got to change up his throwing motion, get that ball out in a hurry. Puts it in a place where Jarrett Stearns can go get it to set up this first and goal situation.
So Wilson putting something together in this drive from the 3, first and goal. Soft toss into the end zone. It's intercepted by Marc-Antoine Dequoy, who chooses to run it out and gets it out to the Alouette 5. So we have back-to-back interceptions in this game early on. First Tony Jones to set up the Bombers, and then Dequoy to deny Winnipeg of any more points on the board. Wilson had tossed them to get them deep, but that toss ends up in the hands of the Alouette safety, Marc-Antoine Dequoy.
Marc-Antoine Dequoy, the man of the moment, starts off from his safety spot, but you're going to see him move out to play man coverage against the number 2 receiver in the slot. That's Jarrett Stearns. Stearns works deep towards the corner. Dequoy has his eyes in the backfield, sees that the throw is coming up short, and steps in front of it. I can't believe I'm saying in week 21, Marc-Antoine Dequoy's first interception of the season.
So deep in their zone they start. Bethel Thompson completes it to Regis Sibasu, but no gain right around the 5. Second and long ahead for Montreal. Just glad to have the ball back without any other Bomber points on the board.
Yeah, quick hitter here. Sibasu is one of those guys who will get a little more action today as Montreal tries to practice a little load management in that receiving corps.
Sellout crowd at Princess Auto Stadium for the regular season finale. And the last chance they'll get to see their Blue Bombers at home, unless 3 weeks from now, Winnipeg can work its way back for the biggest game of all. Grey Cup 112. Bethel Thompson, second and long. Goes off the intended receiver, ricochets and heads down incomplete. So Montreal will have to punt from their end zone.
A little bit of heat on McLeod, Bethel, Thompson. We'll talk a little bit as this game goes on, but Winnipeg getting a late season look at a few new faces along that defensive line, so certainly guys with something to prove here early as you see Chris Strebler, who's hobbled his way towards the Bomber dressing room.
He suffered a knee injury last year that ended his season in the Banjo Bowl. Terry Wilson became the number 2 quarterback. That's Logan out of bounds, but you hate to see that again for Chris Strebler. He's been through this kind of thing before and on the limp after the knee injury, an apparent knee injury earlier in this game. Wilson back on in the Alouette zone in Winnipeg, leading 3-0. Well, here's a look at what's going on right now for Winnipeg. They don't know if they're going to finish 4th and cross over to Montreal or finish 3rd and perhaps go to Calgary next week. Here to sort it out and talk about what lies ahead for Winnipeg. Let's go down and say hello to Britt Dort.
Thanks so much, Rod. Yeah, no, maybe it's not that crazy to think the fact that Winnipeg's never been the crossover team for the fact that they used to be in the East Division. However, there is the stat that no crossover team has ever gone on to win the Grey Cup. Mike O'Shea not faced by that stat. Said it doesn't bother me whether we're going to Montreal or we're going to Calgary, because either way we know we're hitting the road next week to play that game. But what you will see is with these rosters today, obviously both teams not starting their quarterbacks. They're trying to have that roster management. You guys talked about resting their guys ahead of next week. But what O'Shea did tell us is that one of the reasons he isn't rostering his whole team that you're used to is because he doesn't want to show his cards. Because he said the fact is, in 7 days, we could end up playing the same team. So probably a very different looking game next week if these two meet.
Strong possibility, Brett. Here's Winnipeg with the ball, and Wilson is sacked. He's buried hardly any time. And Sean Oakman coming in, taking him down back at the 50.
And this is one of the things that stands out about the return of Mustafa Johnson is Sean Oakman becomes one of your depth pieces, so to speak, on that defensive line. Big number 2. Someone's got to get hands on him. 6th sack of the season for Oakman. And a pretty special depth piece to have on any D-line. The veteran who spent time previously with Toronto and Edmonton.
Here's Wilson again, 2nd down, and long and nearly intercepted again by Dequoy. It is amazing, you pointed out, that Marc-Antoine Dequoy, known for big plays and turnovers, just got his first pick of the season a few moments ago. He nearly had number 2.
And you wonder a little bit if the youngster Terry Wilson might be staring down his receivers a little bit. 2nd-year man, that head-to-head with the veteran safety in Dequoy. Tipping him off a little bit as Dequoy nearly had his 2nd here in the 1st quarter.
So it's Castillo again, and this time a longer attempt, much longer. 58 yards, and it just falls shy of the goal line, and bringing it out is Charleston Rambo. So the 2nd straight time for the Alouettes, they will start at their own 5-yard line. But again, no points on the board, no more points on for Winnipeg.
And Sergio Castillo, a guy who has a long field goal this year of 63 yards. Very rare that you're going to see him come up short. Alouettes, by the way, without James Letcher for much of the season, almost seemed like they're trying to figure out their return game. It was Charleston Rambo returning that one. Tyson Philpott listed as the primary returner here today, but it'll be interesting to see what they do when it comes time to lay out that playoff roster.
And as for Castillo, he was 6 for 9, 50 plus. Now a 6 for 10 after that miss. So again, deep in their zone, it's Stevie Scott, the ball carrier, picks up a couple of yards for the Alouettes.
Well, and, you know, one of the things that I think is so important to mention is it seems like a lot of the focus becomes on these teams not necessarily playing starters in the final week of the season for various reasons, but you know, it's not like the guys that they're putting out there are a bunch of guys they just picked out of a pumpkin patch, right? Like you're talking about guys who have veteran players or guys who have been on practice rosters all year, whether they're looking to try and prove something or fight their way onto the playoff roster.
Bethel Thompson throwing, and Austin Mack catching, and a 1st down. Alouettes buy themselves some space with the veteran Mack, as mentioned, a big part of the run to the Grey Cup in 2023.
Yeah, Austin Mack working from the slot here, sort of coming from depth. And just looking for a quick hitter, obviously a little bit limited offensively in this field position. You don't want to risk giving up yards via sack, so you're going to try, generally speaking, to get the ball out of the QB's hand quickly.
Bethel Thompson handing off to Scott again. Stevie Scott grinding his way up. And Scott last week against Montreal, 63 yards in the ground, 52 through the air. He had a touchdown in that game as well.
And Stevie Scott is a guy who's had to bide his time a little bit. Banged up coming out of camp. Change at the running back position for Montreal this season with Walter Fletcher being let go. They opened the season primarily with Sean Thomas Erlington and Travis Tice, both of them on the injured list now.
Back to Scott. Finds more room. Kyrie Wilson in on the tackle. Evan Holm is there as well, but they're working it on the ground, something the Alouettes would like to do more of as they head into the playoffs, get that running game going.
Yeah, and I think it's a case where, Montreal is going to be more of a pass-first team perhaps than some others in the Canadian Football League, but as you alluded to, you never know at this time of year. The weather may dictate that you have to rely on that power ground game, and Stevie Scott is a guy who gives you an opportunity to do that.
First quarter under 2 minutes in. And that is caught again by Mack. So another catch for Austin Mack up around the 35. How about that Winnipeg defense?
Yeah, introduce you to a few new faces. Matthew Jaworski, one of 3 defensive ends making their CFL debut today for the Bombers as James Vaughters and Willie Jefferson getting the day off. Jaden Woodby, we've talked about him a little bit down the stretch, a mid-season addition who has been impactful on defense. He's in for Reddick Ramsey. And congrats to Evan Holm, veteran halfback playing on that field side, who is the Bombers nominee for most outstanding defensive player this season.
2nd and 5 here. Bethel Thompson throws, caught. Philpott has it up across the 40, and that's another Alouette first down. Tyson Philpott coming in with 738 yards receiving this season.
And once again, quick hitter as the Alouettes move their way out of their own end here. And a good job, even just to get a couple of first downs. Anytime you're starting with that tough field position deep in your own end, a couple of maybe questionable decisions to bring the ball out of the end zone have left them in bad field position.
From the 41, handing off, Scott again. Stevie Scott getting busy in this quarter, late in it, and tackled up closer right around the 50 of the Alouettes. It'll be a 2nd and short ahead.
Yeah, Stevie Scott, a 230-pounder. You see him bringing it a little bit, moving that pile every time he goes into contact.
Spotted at the Alouette 48. Montreal, knowing they will finish 2nd in the East, trailing 3-0 with McLeod, Bethel Thompson at quarterback. Back to Scott in the 2nd and short. Puts his head down and looks like he has enough. Closer to midfield, up around the 53. Looks like it is another first down for the Alouettes to end the first quarter of play. Winnipeg has the lead on a field goal by Sergio Castillo. They also lost their starting quarterback for this game in Chris Strebler. We'll have more coming up. CFL and TSN, final day of the regular season. One quarter into a game that really doesn't have that much bearing in the standings. The Bombers already knew they're going in the playoffs on the road, so a lot of key players were rested, Dwayne, to keep them healthy for the big game. But still, a key injury for Winnipeg is Chris Strebler. Looks like he has suffered really a bad knee injury. It's hard to say at this point, but out for this game.
Yeah, and Chris Strebler, obviously the number 2 quarterback for Winnipeg. Zach Collaros not playing today. But a guy for whom the Bombers, they build packages within their offense around the skill set of Chris Strebler. So you actually lose a chunkier offense. I'm sure some of those things they'll probably try to run a little bit with Terry Wilson, but not the same guy, right? Like Chris Streveler is a big, strong power runner that gives you another option in that regard sometimes in the backfield with Brady Oliveira.
Bombers had to adjust in the second half of the season last year heading into the Grey Cup with Terry Wilson as the backup because of a knee injury to Streveler. Bethel Thompson. Alouettes have something going. First catch of the afternoon. Cole Speaker, and it's another Montreal first down. They started deep in their zone. They've worked it down to the Winnipeg 32.
Cole Speaker right on the left edge of your screen. Kind of uncovered. It looked like Dietrich Nichols trying to work from outside leverage, trying to fight his way back in to make a play on the ball. A nice chunk play there for the always steady Cole Speaker.
Veteran backup McLeod Bethel Thompson getting the start in this one. Play action pass. And under pressure, he still manages to get the pass off to Tyson Philpott, who certainly has fond memories of playing against Winnipeg, including this stadium, the season opener, Dwayne, a year ago. He had a couple of touchdowns. That was the Grey Cup rematch when he scored the winning touchdown in 23.
And here you see Tyson Philpott, far right side of your screen. Split out wide, so within this formation, Montreal's given Philpott lots of room to get open, basically giving him half the field to go to work against coverage. You see McLeod Bethel Thompson taking a little bit of a shot as he delivers that completion.
Good drive, Montreal down to the Winnipeg 20. Back to Stevie Scott. As to work his way through, that's Dietrich Nichols and Jaden Woodby. And on the tackle, getting some help from one of the newcomers, Kydran Jenkins, his first year out of Purdue.
Yeah, Jenkins, as mentioned, one of 3 rookie defensive ends. Getting a little bit of a look today.
Along with Matthew Jaworski and Kamari Mounier-Bailey. So yeah, you talked about a lot of change up front for the Bombers defensively in this game.
I expect to see it. A lot of Cam Lawson as well, maybe more snaps than usual. Regularly a rotation guy.
3-man front, Bethel Thompson. And pursuing and getting rid of it and heading towards the end zone. Jamal Parker, excuse me. An incomplete third down field goal try coming up.
Yes, seen a few snaps defensively here in the early going as well for Jalen Smith, the rookie second-round pick for the Bombers.
Jose Maltos Diaz, Dwayne, tied with Damon Duval in field goals for a season at 55 for the franchise record. So if he makes this, he stands alone, looking for his 56th and an Alouette team record. And it'll be put down just inside the left hash by Joseph Zima from the 25. Jose Maltos Diaz, and stands alone in the Alouettes record book as this game is tied at 3. Took over the kicking duties in Montreal last year. Having a great year. And just tied the score here in Winnipeg. Jose Maltos Diaz just got his 56th field goal, the new team record. Damon Duval had 55 back in 2009, so the single season record now belongs to him. And by the way, he's also in pursuit of Justin Medlock, who had 60. That's for the CFL record. On this final day of the regular season for Maltos Diaz.
Thanks to these guys.
Alouette nominee, Special Teams Player of the Year. Tie ball game. Terry Wilson at quarterback for Winnipeg. Matthew Peterson is the running back as they give Brady Oliveira a break in this season finale, and good pickup there by Peterson.
Well, Matthew Peterson acquired in an off-season trade, originally drafted by the Hamilton Tiger Cats. 4th-round pick in 2024. Swapped for defensive lineman Kyle Sampson, who had been in Winnipeg.
2nd down and 5. Wilson airing it out down the left, and no, looked like a shot there. for Cam Eccles, making his first start for the Blue Bombers. And falls incomplete.
As you mentioned, Eccles up on the line of scrimmage, top right corner of your screen. Breaks in initially, give himself a little bit of space, setting up kind of that thin corner route. Pretty well thrown ball, just off the hands there with Deontay Ruffin arriving just in time to disrupt the play.
Eccles with his Bombers debut as they spell Ontario Wilson for this game.
Yeah, Eccles 31 catches for Calgary last season, over 300 yards.
And Lawal Uguak, third-year defensive lineman for the Alouettes, is the injured Montreal player. It's a third down coming up as he limps off. Uguak does. Terry Wilson 2 for 6 for 34 yards through an interception in the end zone to Marc-Antoine Dequoy after a good Winnipeg drive. But this one stalls right at their 45. Jamison Sheehan standing back at his 30. Charleston Rambo says returned by committee for the Alouettes. Seen some Tyson Philpott as well with the injury to James Letcher. High snap, flags out, and gets it away, and Rambo chases it right around the 25, takes it and pushes it across the 30. We'll see what this flag is all about. Just came out with the snap of the ball.
Both offenses starting to stroll on the field here.
Offside, Montreal, number 2. It's 5-yard penalty, first down Winnipeg.
And it was third and just a little bit less than 5. So yeah, that's a big offside to keep the Bombers offense on the field, and the Alouette defense has to return.
I guess sometimes when you're 6'8", it's hard to keep all of you behind the line.
Tallest player in the Canadian Football League, Sean Oathman, and one of the tallest too, Willie Jefferson, another one of the Bombers getting a break today. Offense stays out though. The 3-3 tie, second quarter. Back in the hands of Matthew Peterson, and a good run by Peterson, knifing his way through. Dequoy had him wrapped at the ankles, but he still has another good pickup, and it'll set up a second and short here.
Yeah, nice push here from the Bombers' offensive line. You see Patty Neufeld getting a little bit of movement.
Well, for the second time in just a couple of moments here, another injury to a defensive lineman for the Alouettes. First Lawal Uguak, and now Mustafa Johnson has taken a knee.
And Johnson sort of went down heavily. He was in that pileup with Pat Neufeld on the play.
Johnson suffered a knee injury last year that ended his season and also kept him out of a good chunk of this season. He did not return until week 14. Still down and getting attention. We'll take a break. Be back here at Princess Auto Stadium.
I haven't watched a lot of this show, but I remember seeing Enoch Mwamba.
Enoch Mwamba was on this show.
Yeah, he's a traitor.
He'll have a chance to address that with the panel at halftime. 10:41 to go and counting. And a first down there for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, making some substitutions again. It's 3-3 tie. And yeah, still something at stake in terms of playoff positioning for Winnipeg, although it's still a road playoff game. They either go to Calgary or, even more likely, they go and face the Alouettes again in Montreal. Mike O'Shea very mindful of that in terms of how the cards are played today. Could be a trip to McGill University, Molson Stadium next week in the crossover game. Swinging it out. Carrick Whitfall has his first catch of the afternoon. And a good pickup, too, as he works it down close to the Alouette 35. Extracurriculars after the fact. Flags come out. Looks to be going against the Alouettes.
And here you'll see Carrick Wheatfall.
Unnecessary roughness, Montreal, number 24. 15 yards from the end of the play, first down Winnipeg.
I mean, Dequoy delivers the hit here. I don't think he's been listed out of bounds, maybe viewed as a bit of a high shot there.
Is that extra shove after he's already out of bounds?
It's just getting him out of bounds.
Just making sure he's out.
It's football. But, I mean, I come from a bit of a belief that all roughness is necessary.
They're going to take a look. You see him with the who me. Like,
yeah,
you actually give me a flag for that?
I wonder if it had to do with...
There's no infraction on the play. The Winnipeg ball player was still in bounds. It'll be first down Winnipeg still.
There you go. Now we'll get another look. Dequoy in pursuit to the sideline. And Wheatfall is going to spin back inside here. Still in bounds as Dequoy helps him out of bounds.
Dwayne Ford settling down now after what he thought was a little bit of injustice there on the
it's all good now.
Necessary roughness by Marc-Antoine
Week 21, Rod, but I'm bringing the playoff intensity today.
You always do. Here we go. On the first down play, and that one is going nowhere for Peterson. Josh Archibald, product of McGill, started his career with the BC Lions and back in Montreal this year. Gain of only a yard, 2nd and 9.
Yeah, and Archibald, a valuable free agent acquisition for Montreal this season, finding his way home. But a team that frequently plays Isaac Adeyemi-Berglund and Lawal Uguak as defensive ends, Canadians at those spots. Archibald is a guy who brings some depth as well as making a contribution on special teams.
2nd and long. Wilson to throw. Has the time. He finds Cam Eccles. Right with him is Deontay Ruffin. And looks like he gets enough. Does he get enough for the first down? It's very, very close spot of the ball around the 26. The 3rd and inches coming up here.
Yeah, Bombers maximizing the protection for Terry Wilson there, as this one's going to take a little bit of time to develop with Eccles on the underneath cross.
A spot we'd normally see Chris Stremler at short yardage, and Wilson, who did a lot of that as mentioned last season as the backup to Zach Collaros after Stremler got hurt and was injured for the rest of the season after the Banjo Bowl. Wilson became their short yardage QB, and he does have a first down there.
And as I say, I will be very curious. Look at that little devil. To see what the Bombers do to sort of make up, I guess, for the Strevler contributions in terms of their packaging offensively. You see both Zach Collaros and Nick Dembski, a couple of key offensive performers in their street clothes today.
If the Bombers don't win this game, then it is sealed, regardless of what happens later today with BC and Saskatchewan. They get 4th, they cross over, Wilson is down. It's Dequoy coming in, and a huge loss for Winnipeg on that tackle of Wilson, pushing them back outside the Montreal 35.
And we talk all the time about how much Noel Thorpe likes to move players around. We've seen him basically move from his safety spot to line up as a halfback, playing man coverage. Here he is up on the line, showing blitz all the way. Dequoy already with an interception, adding a sack to his stats line.
That's his 3rd sack of the season. Marc-Antoine Dequoy. 2nd and 22. Little shovel inside, and it's read perfectly. Archibald is there again. Seeing it tossed to Peterson. Only picks up maybe a yard or two. So special teams time, and Sergio Castillo's coming on for his 3rd field goal try of the afternoon.
Yeah, watch from the right side of your screen. Archibald makes a move inside, manages to keep that inside arm free. Working against Micah Vanderpool, the tackle, but able to get a hand on the receiver.
Sergio Castillo made his first try at 48. He was short on a try from 58 in the first quarter. Put down by Jamison Sheehan, and this will be a 43-yard attempt for Castillo. And he's good again. 2 for 3. 3 more on the board for the Bombers, who have the lead again on a gorgeous day here in Winnipeg, just 3 weeks away from Grey Cup. Bombers on top, second quarter.
Welcome back to Princess Auto Stadium, where once again fans have flooded this stands. Now, this is a historic season for the Bombers. They've officially sold out every single home game for the first time in team history. It's actually 14 consecutive sellouts dating back to August of last year. Now, when their president Wade Miller came into this club in 2013, I want to remind you, the Bombers were 3-15 that season. He said, I have a goal to sell out every home game in a season by the year 2025. And guys, he did it. Now, of course, they've had a great product on the field. Shout out to Wade Miller for helping as well, putting the fans in the seats. But he also had this tradition where every Friday morning in the office, he'd play AC/DC's It's a Long Way to the Top. So I don't know if we could also give some credit to that, because, I mean, that had to be motivating as well.
No doubt, Britt. This Bomber team with the lead again, and that carry is another new one to the Alouettes getting a shot. That is Tyon Evans, his first year at Louisville in his first CFL game, first CFL carry.
And we'll take another look at Evans' first carry in the Canadian Football League. Another big power back. Just hits that one north-south.
A lot of fresh faces in this game today than the regular season. First and 10, and an awkward handoff, but gets it back to Evans, who gets across midfield, and then pick up and second and about 5 ahead here from Montreal.
You know, just getting back to the Bombers and selling out their entire season. Love that costume. You know, I think Wade Miller, if asked, he would probably tell you in terms of selling out the entire season that it's probably a little bit like trying to put sunscreen on your back, right? This isn't something that you can do alone.
Very true. Very true. And for Winnipeg, too, what a run it's been. 5 straight appearances in the Grey Cup. And this is the first time in 5 years that they won't host the Western Final, and Bethel Thompson throwing that one away. But this is an organization, as he is slow to get up, and that's Bailey again. Mounier Bailey. Kamari Mounier Bailey out of Weber State involved in the play. But for this nation, they had a long drought. 29 years ended in 2019, and after that, they took over the West Division.
It's been a pretty good run, and it, you know, it relates to the Bombers' roster management. This is a team for whom you would argue that a home game is such a huge advantage. Mike O'Shea has talked a lot about the importance of their fans.
And would have loved another home playoff game, but said the decision on the roster for this one, knowing that it's either Calgary or Montreal, and nothing that happens today is gonna change that.
Yeah, if they had the opportunity with a win today to get a home playoff game, I suspect that the roster deployment would be different.
And by the way, for Winnipeg to have to go on the road and win a couple of playoff games and then win the Grey Cup, it's been done with O'Shea. That was the start of the run back in 2019 where they had to go on the road.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It is. These are not uncharted waters for the Bombers.
His first time in a while, though. Oh, nearly picked off for a touchdown by Kabion Ento. He stepped in front of Joey Corcoran and had nothing but daylight ahead, and he knows it.
Yeah, he was in full stride towards that Bomber end zone. I'm sure his eyes were as big as saucers here. But this one is off the hands. You know, Ento, by the way, a receiver in college, so he's going to hear about that one a little bit.
Yeah, well, we watched him and some of the plays he made in their Grey Cup run a couple of years ago. Swinging it up to Peterson and builds up a head of steam, gets it up across the 45, but still shy of a first down.
And just finishing the thought on the Matthew Peterson trade acquisition from Hamilton. You know, bringing that full circle. He's a guy who became expendable, essentially, in Hamilton's plans when the Tiger Cats signed Johnny Augustine.
Right.
But by the Tiger Cats signing Johnny Augustine, it created a need for Matthew Peterson, a Canadian running back here, to back up Brady Oliveira. So, little game of musical chairs.
And with the success Oliveira has had, not many reps for Peterson this season, although in their opening game back in week 2 when Oliveira got hurt. Peterson had a chance. He had 23 carries for 130 yards and a touchdown against the BC Lions. So that was a good welcome to the CFL moment for that young man out of the University of Alberta Golden Bears. And there he is sitting beside Brady Oliveira getting a break today.
And Matthew Peterson's got a pretty good tutor over there on the sidelines.
As Oliveira did too.
Absolutely. Andrew Harris. And from mentoring Brady Oliveira here to mentoring A.J. Ouellette in Toronto to coaching A.J. Ouellette in Saskatchewan. We'll see the Riders in action later this evening against the BC Lions.
The Lions, with a win, can wrap up a home playoff date in second place in the West if they get a win. But they'll need to. Calgary winning at Edmonton last night. Let's the Stamps get second place. Bombers either get third in the West or fourth. They're on the road next week in the playoffs. It's Charleston Rambo. He somehow manages to work his way through a pile of bodies and pick up a few more yards on that punt return.
Charleston Rambo doing whatever he could to pick up yardage here. Nice job getting out to the sidelines to get to that one and actually get a return on this play.
6-4 the score, and that most recent punch single by Joseph Zima. Up across the 30, Bethel Thompson takes the handoff, wanted to throw deep, throws it underneath, and we've got contact on Austin Mack. And this will be Cam Allen, the safety number 0 for Winnipeg, flagged for pass interference.
You can
pass
see
interference, Winnipeg, number 0. Spot of the foul, automatic first down.
Here you'll see Mack out of the slot, is going to work all the way across the field, number 81. Cam Allen gets a hand around the waist. Austin Mack, by the way, a proud graduate of The Ohio State University. We'll be very glad to see a Purdue guy get flagged. The Big Ten rivalries run deep.
It just happened.
Not that it's a competition between our guest analysts, but this is the first time that one has brought us presents. Tavares, what you bring us here today?
There you go, man.
Oh,
part of the team now. Miss football, baby.
I love it. Right. Did you get Rod good material too, something?
Best of the best.
Welcome to the studio panel, Tavares Daniels. Good you get join us. We'll hear from him at halftime. And Kate, Enoch, and Milt. Tavares Daniels, by the way, involved in the last crossover game in the CFL. He was with Edmonton in 2019 in Montreal, and his head coach Jason Moss, who is about to be involved in another crossover game this time with the Alouettes.
Yes, finding himself on the other side of it.
And Edmonton won that year. Trevor Harris was surgical, completed 93% of his passes. They went to Hamilton, though, and the Ticats won. And then Hamilton, the favorite, heading to the Grey Cup in Calgary that year against the underdog Winnipeg Blue Bombers, the third-place team who ended up winning it. Starting a run in the West. Here's a deep shot. Oh, open was Tyson Philpott, not quite there. In behind coverage, but they couldn't quite connect. We get a third down now coming up.
Yeah, McLeod Bethel Thompson loads it up, and Tyson Philpott, little in and up. Misdirection on the route. Just couldn't quite get back inside far enough to haul that one down.
So he heads to the sideline now in a rather low-scoring first half with just 10 points on the board. 2.5 minutes to go. There's Peyton Logan back for it. The Joseph Zima punt from his 40. And the Aussie hits it off to the right and down around the 10 for Logan. Set in on returns for Trey Vavel, who's had a brilliant year. We mentioned that crossover back in 2019, 6 years ago. Edmonton, the crossover team, and there's their younger head coach, Jason Moss.
Edmonton getting it done on that day. And you see Trevor Harris,
Calvin
McCarty in the end zone.
I said Trevor's day, 36 of 39. It's remarkable. You were at that game back then in Montreal, and Davis Alexander is reduced to watching on this day as Jason Maas doesn't want anything happening with him with a big playoff game. Next week the playoffs begin. Alexander, dressed for this, had been listed as the starting quarterback, Dwayne, and then they decided no, put Bethel Thompson in the start in this one.
Yeah, and you know the feeling, I think regardless of whether Montreal had a chance to finish in first place or not, like regardless of who you put in your lineup, you're trying to win the football game. But you're trying to manage other things at this time of year. And I think that even if Alexander had played, he probably wasn't going to play more than a quarter, quite honestly.
So faking the handoff and dumping it off to Eccles, and good defensive play. Coming in as Robert Kennedy on that tackle. But this was last couple of weeks, really, but last week against Ottawa. And this is the concern you have with the health of your number one quarterback.
Yeah, that was the first Ottawa game, got his lid popped off.
And then last week got hit early in the game in Ottawa. The arm, and of course, he has been nursing the hamstring injury too, and has said he's not 100% there. That's what caused him to miss a good chunk of the season. 7-0 though is the start of this year. 4-0 last year. 11-0, the all-time record, and we can say he will head into next season with that 11-0 record intact. With the regular season coming to an end today. The punt by Jamison Sheehan. And backpedaling a little bit is Rambo at the 41. Late first half, Charleston Rambo. Good tackle on special teams by Michael Ayers, one of their special teams tackles leader.
Yeah, Ayers has kind of filled the shoes of Brian Cole, who moved on to Hamilton in free agency. His second year out of Ashland University.
Well, Davis Alexander mentioning the great start to his career. Undefeated in career starts. 7-0 this year. And look at those numbers as they bear out. You can see what an important player he is to their hopes of getting back to the Grey Cup. A good veteran backup in McLeod Bethel Thompson. Ball comes out in the hands of Cam Allen. Got it at midfield. Big return on the fumble recovery to set up the Bombers late in the half, but already in the score zone against the Alouettes.
Yeah, it was Tyson Philpott, the Alouettes receiver, just fighting for yards, trying to fight for extra yards at the end of the play, wrapped up by a number of Bomber defenders. Philpott on the outside. You see them surround. It was Evan Holm who popped that ball out. And Cam Allen, first-year player who's kind of solidified that safety spot for the Bombers the second half of the season, coming up with the recovery and the return.
So another opportunity deep in the Alouette zone for Terry Wilson. Last time they got this deep, he ended up being intercepted in the end zone. Matthew Peterson puts his head down, gets it, and around the 15. Still no touchdowns in this game.
Take a look back at that turnover again. Evan Holmes in the middle. Holm in the middle of it. You saw his right arm kind of pulling like he was starting a lawnmower there to jar that ball free.
So 2nd and 6 at the Montreal 15. Wilson flushed out of the pocket, rolling to the right. Can't find a target. He takes off 10, 5, and close to the goal line. He is hit just around the 1, pushed out of bounds. 34 seconds on the clock. Another 1st and goal coming up here for Winnipeg.
Yeah, good decision making there from Terry Wilson. He sees an opportunity to go as the Alouettes, when he gets in this sort of run pass option situation, Alouettes are hanging back in coverage, giving him a little bit of real estate. He takes what he's given, you know, and probably to the relief of his head coach, plays it smart and gets out of bounds without taking a heavy shot. Again, with Chris Streveler already out of the lineup, and that looking like something that could last a little longer. Wilson becomes very important.
Keeps it. First and goal. Trying to break the play. Pick up the game's first touchdown. No signal yet. Got down very close to the goal line. You got a second and goal coming up.
Big boys up front. Pretty good surge from both sides off the snap. Terry Wilson's going to try and make himself small like a jelly bean and squeeze through there, but Alouettes able to stop him up.
Well, last year it was an injury to Chris Streveler that put Terry Wilson in the number 2 role behind Zach Collaros late in the season heading into the playoffs, and looks like it could be that situation again after the injury earlier. They'll try again, and that Alouette defense stiffens up. You see over the top is Tyrese Beverette, but again Wilson having trouble finding the goal line, and looks like we have a third down coming up here.
Yeah, it is. You see just 9 seconds left in the first half. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers from this position do not want to settle for a field goal.
Trying again. Third down. Touchdown. Alouettes still don't agree. They know it'll be looked at, and it's already being discussed. Did he break the plane? They signal yes with 2 seconds on the clock.
We'll take a look. Slide slightly left. Definitely going to be close, but you would think that that's going to be enough to break that front plane of the goal line.
Let's try this angle here. Yeah, he just needs the front edge.
When you can't see the ball, but you can see where his helmet is, and you can see how he was carrying the ball. I think it's likely that he's in, and given that that's the call on the field, you know, as much as there may not be evidence.
Ruling on the field is a touchdown.
And it would be incumbent on review to have proof that it's not a touchdown for it to be overturned.
Yeah, and this is the thing. As much as there may not have been video evidence that he was in, what they needed in that instance based on the call of the field was video evidence that he was not in to change the call.
Terry Wilson has had short yardage touchdowns before, but getting more playing time now after the injury to Chris Streveler, and number 2 on the depth now behind Zach Collaros. See how Streveler is with the playoff game on the road coming up next week.
There's another look. Tyrese Beverette over the top. In fairness, Wilson came into this game with 15 carries on the season. You know, primarily short yardage type situations, as Zach Collaros missed some time during the season. There were times when Terry Wilson has filled that short yardage role.
So 13-4 with that first touchdown of the game, Winnipeg. Halftime approaches. Be heading back to Kate in the panel with another game coming up, and it has a big impact on where BC is, or where Winnipeg's going as well. Well, if the Bombers win the game, if the Bombers lose this game, then they're going to Montreal next week. That's done. But if they do win, it depends on what BC does in Saskatchewan. If the Lions win, then again, Bombers are a crossover. But if they lose, then they would be crossing over to Montreal, and Winnipeg would go to Calgary as the third place team. So in terms of placement, still something to be decided. Most importantly for the Bombers, they know they're in. The final play of the first half. Charleston Rambo on the return. Down he goes. So we finally do get a touchdown in this game. Very in the first half as Jason Moss's Alouettes secure in second in the East, knowing there's nowhere to go as they get ready to host a playoff game next week. Trail in this game by 9. Big defensive plays. Marc-Antoine Dequoy had one of them, an interception in the end zone that took some points off the board for Winnipeg. But an odd dynamic, especially for the Alouettes in this final game of the regular season, finding out last night after Hamilton beat Ottawa that they will finish in second place. Bombers lead. Top receiver in yardage, Jareth Stern, standing by with Brett.
Jareth, I can imagine you're feeling a lot of emotions in your team's final drive of the half there, but how big was that touchdown for you guys?
It was huge. It was much needed. The defense has been playing great. It felt good for Terry to be able to put one in and get a drive going.
I'm sure it's really tough for you to watch what happened to Strevler out there, but Wilson came in, you had a couple back-to-back catches with him to get him comfortable. How big of a challenge is that to build chemistry with somebody that you haven't played a lot with?
Well, first, I just want to send my prayers out to Strev. I hope it's nothing serious. Everyone here loves that guy. They know what he brings to this program, so we're just wishing the best for him. As far as Terry goes, we all know he's a very talented dude, and he works real hard, and he makes sure all the guys get reps with him, so the chemistry's already been there from practice and things like that, so it's good to see him go out here and put it happen in the game.
Thanks so much, Jareth.
Thank you.
All right, we'll send things off to Kate and the panel.
And Brent, that panel today is Milt Stegall, DeVaris Daniels, and one Enoch Mwamba as Winnipeg Blue Bombers in front of a once again sold-out crowd are leading the way right now. But the biggest story, as Britt just mentioned too, it is the injury to Chris Strevler. Look, you never love to see this. It's a non-contact injury. He's being helped off the field. The training staff took him out too. He's not putting any weight whatsoever on that leg. And I think the most important part too, other than the fact that, he comes out with an injury like this and he's getting near the end of his career, is the fact that they have him in a ton of these packages when it comes to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Yes. And we just witnessed it at the end of that half, that it took them to 3rd and goal to punch that ball into the end zone. And they're going to need a guy like that to do those certain jobs, Milt.
Without a doubt. Chris Strevler is not the best backup quarterback in the CFL, but he's the most important backup quarterback in the CFL because of what the Winnipeg Blue Bombers do on offense. When they get in the red zone, when they get in those tight situations in short yardage, who do they go to? Chris Strevler. Chris Strevler has 9 rushing touchdowns this year. That tells you how important he is to this offense. So offensive coordinator Jason Hogan, he has to go back to the drawing board because we know Zach is not going to be in those situations. Are they going to use Terry Wilson? He doesn't have much experience. He did play in the Grey Cup against you guys last year, but there's no way you can replace Chris Strevler. So I think schematically, they're going to have to do something different on offense now because Chris Strevler is not going to be in there in those packages.
And Milt, this takes away a large portion of that scheme that you're going to take into that playoff game. So I think, for the players on that field, they have to find a way to rally around this injury, play for their brother, go out there and try to just do what you can for him. That's the only way I see them really having a chance in the playoff game. And, we'll see what happens. This is a large situation for them.
It's a huge loss. And to your point, Mill, I thought you were about to say that he is not the best starting quarterback. And we saw he kind of struggled as a starter. But you're right. His value as a backup is immense, especially to this team, because he has a playbook, a bunch of package plays that are tailored to his skill set. And his skill set are very unique. And so you're losing all of that, and you have to bring in now Terry to come in right now, and he has to now fill in and play for him. This is turning out actually to be a really extremely valuable play now, play time for Terry as he comes in. He is going to have to grow up really quick in front of all of us because the play time that he's getting today is going to help him as they get into the playoffs.
More opportunities for Brady Oliveira. When they get in that red zone now, you got to use Brady Oliveira more.
Agreed.
You got to give him the ball. You got to give him the opportunity. He's been saying he wants more of those opportunities. So Jason Hogan, offensive coordinator, has to give him more opportunity because, as we mentioned, it's not going to be Zach.
And you know what, Bill, yesterday we were talking about it. Was it a smart decision for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers to sit all their guys the way they're doing today? And yesterday we were talking about the mindset of a champion. Is it right? I kind of think Mike O'Shea is now right. This is crucial because listen, this might be the last time this team is together. And as veteran as a team as they are and as older as they get, you know how it is, the older you get, they have to re-engineer their own version of a bye week, and this is exactly what he's doing right now. As an older guy, do you even want to play this late in the season right now? If you can find a way to get a week off, you got to be able to find it, and Mike O'Shea just did that with this week.
I think the best thing that can happen right now is what's happening with Terry. He gets a chance to get out there and see that defense for the first time, and who knows, he may find himself in the game coming to playoffs. So I think it's important for him to get a chance to get out there, get the full game now, and see what he can do.
You know, too, a little surprising with the Montreal Alouettes. I mean, especially defensively, you see Beverette out there, you see Isaac Adeyemi-Berglund, you see Darnell Sankey, you see Marc-Andre Ducroix, and you're like, what is happening right now? And I get it, too. I mean, they know what they're doing next week, so maybe they're just like, okay, we're just going to play through the motions and make sure we don't get hurt. But a very interesting game, nonetheless. Yeah. Coming up after the break, it's an end of an era for one Bob Dice. We discuss right after this. Well, big changes coming in Ottawa. The Red Blacks announced today that they have relieved head coach Bob Dice of his duties. Ottawa made the playoffs only twice during Dice's tenure as head coach, which lasted 4 seasons. Under the final year under Dice was one to forget, ending on a 6-game losing skid and finishing with a last-place record of 4-14.
I do know Bob has been in the business long enough and knows what we sign up for, just like I do. And, you know, all of us aren't happy with where we're at. It's not acceptable.
If you're not ashamed to be 4-14 right now, there's a problem with you. And I'm really, like, it's hard for me to shake hands with the fans right now and look them in the eye because they give us their money. They come here, they come watch us play, and we give them poor performances like that. So very frustrating, very disappointing. And yeah, I can't lie on that.
You know, sticking with the fans too, I think it has to be super disappointing because last year was so good with this team at home in Ottawa. They were 7-1-1. And my goodness, that was a franchise best. And then they missed the playoffs, obviously, this year. When Bob came in back in 2022, that was his interim year, but 3 years as a full-time head coach. And he went from that 4-14 record, I mean, to that great season and then back to basically square one once again. We've been talking about this, too. Around the league, we love the continuity when it comes to seeing your GM and also your head coach. Right now, we see it in Edmonton. We see it in Saskatchewan. We see it in Montreal as well. And we saw Sean Burke there, too. But now, I mean, he's now a little bit on the hot seat too, probably just a year to figure this out. But Tavares, you've been in this situation too, where you've been on, you know, teams that have been on the wrong end of things. It's never a great situation. But what's important right now as a team, in your opinion?
I think, like you mentioned, I was in a situation in Edmonton, and our record wasn't that great. You know, we made the playoffs, but this is a totally different situation. This is the second year that they didn't make the playoffs after they shown to looked like they were going to turn the corner and be a better team. But now I think that, you know, it's all on the players to kind of rebuild that culture. We don't know what the future holds as far as who they're going to bring in to replace Bob Dice. But I think that, you know, for the player standpoint, it's important to come together in a moment like this and try to figure out what our culture is going to be going forward. And, you know, whoever comes in, they just have to, you know, ride along and get us into a new spot.
Yeah, and you talk about those pieces. Our former teammate, the party starter is one of those pieces that they're going to have to build around on defense. You look on offense, Eugene Lewis. There's a few pieces there, but ultimately when you look at this season and the Ottawa Red Blacks, Drew Brown needs to be healthy. And it's tough for a team like this that was already in transition to deal with a quarterback that's been hurt in and out of the lineup. It's tough for a coach as well to coach a team that never really had that momentum, never really built that momentum. In a team that is transitioning the way that they were, that's one of the first things that you want to see. You want to see, hey, what can we build off of? What kind of consistency can we have? And Drew Brown not being there, we know what he can do, but in and out of the lineup like that is really difficult. To your point, Tavares, building that culture is definitely difficult.
Yeah. It's a tough business. Coaching is a tough occupation because for the most part, you don't control your own destiny. Regardless of how your X's and O's or whatever, how smart you may be, if the pieces on the field aren't working out or if a quarterback gets injured, as you mentioned, Drew Brown, you could get fired. And that's been the case, unfortunately, for Bobby Dice, who is a good friend of mine. So you never want to see anybody get fired, especially somebody who you know well. But in this business, if you're not getting more wins, a lot more wins and losses is going to happen. So Bobby Dice will bounce back. He'll get another job, and shucks, he's going to get paid next year for doing nothing.
Yeah, he's all right. He'll be fine.
Not a bad way, but
you know what, too? We don't like to play favorites, but it would be really nice to see Bobby Dice land in a coordinator job, I think, moving forward. But right now, you're right. He's getting paid for a year.
He'll be all right.
He'll be just fine. Meanwhile, from a team that isn't making to the postseason to two teams that are looking ahead to the playoffs, and our later game today, it will be the Saskatchewan Roughriders and the BC Lions. And look, depending on what happens in this game that we're currently watching, I mean, there might be a little bit on the line. What are you looking for in this one, Enoch?
I'm looking to see what kind of team is going to come out, especially the BC Lions. We know what the Saskatchewan Roughriders, they know their fate already, but the BC Lions still have a lot to prove, and they still want to show that, hey, we do belong here. We know what this team has been about the beginning of the season, the middle of the season, and ultimately the end of the season, how they turn things around. And that offense really feeds off for that defense as well. When they can score points with Nathan Rourke, and he does what he does, and he's super elusive with these defensive ends, and James Butler adds to that offense as well, it is difficult to guard him because Mathieu Betts, when they put up points on the board, Mathieu Betts, it's hard to stop him.
I think, I'm looking at the BC Lions as well. I think that I've seen them in this position before. Now I want to see them take that next step and turn that corner and turn into a Grey Cup team. They're the hottest team in football right now in CFL, and I want to see them turn the corner.
Saskatchewan Roughriders, their main guys are going to start. How long will they play? What type of game plan will they have with T-Money, Trevor Harris? What type of game plan? So that's what I'm looking at, the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and see how long those starters play.
It's amazing to think we're at the end of the season. I mean, week 21, it just seems like it went by so fast. It went so fast, but what a way to end it in the Heartland today. As we said, it is a doubleheader, and we have a pregame as well. So look, 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 Pacific. We will see you over on TSN. It is the BC Lions and the Saskatchewan Roughriders wrapping up the CFL regular season. But first, we have to wrap up a game in Winnipeg. It's Enoch's new favorite quarterback, Terry Wilson, just lighting it up in the Peg. 9-point lead for the Bombers.
Lighting it up in the Peg. All right.
Final day of the regular season for these two teams, and at the half here in Winnipeg, the Blue Bombers late touchdown to open up a 13-4 lead. Here's Austin Mack of the Alouettes now standing by with Brett.
Austin, how can this team generate some more offense here in the second half?
Really just putting together some plays offensively, getting it explosive and staying on the field.
Knowing that you might face this team next week in a playoff matchup where it's win or go home, how much are you using this game to kind of see what they're made of?
I mean, I think they're playing most of their second team, so for us, it's coming out with a win, coming in here, putting our will on them, and obviously playing Alouette football.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate it. Merci beaucoup.
Austin Mack with a couple of catches for 15 yards in this game with McLeod Bethel Thompson, 9 of 15 for 89 yards only, and he's been picked off once, but backup quarterbacks, the story heading into this game, especially as mentioned for Winnipeg, Dwayne, and that injury to Chris Trevler, and now Terry Wilson the rest of the way.
Yeah, interesting development certainly for Winnipeg, who, again, they know they were going to be a third seed playing on one side of the CFL's playoff bracket. Largely the goal today was to get to that playoff game in uneventful fashion.
Yeah.
And the Chris Trevler injury is exactly the kind of event they were looking to avoid.
So similar situation to last year when Strebler unfortunately suffered a knee injury and Terry Wilson was thrust into the number 2 spot. It's the way it stands now in the second half to begin. Sergio Castillo kicking it off. They got a 9-point lead. It heads out of bounds and a flag comes out for the illegal kick out of bounds to start this second half.
Legal kick out of bounds. Winnipeg, number 14. First down, Montreal.
The referee for this game today, Justin McInnes. Another look. The Winnipeg defense in this first half.
Big interception early on for Tony Jones, and we certainly saw McLeod Bethel Thompson facing some pressure throughout. Evan Holm forces the fumble. Cam Allen, big return. Winnipeg D getting it done with some big plays, even without the draft-like limbs of Willie Jefferson in the lineup today.
One of many Bomber veterans getting a break in this one. Even though they're playoff fate has not been determined in terms of where they're going next week, either Calgary or Montreal to face the Alouettes again. So here we go, second half underway. It is Austin Mack, who just had a chat with Britton back in the field as his third catch of the afternoon and across midfield to set up a second and short.
We have an Alouette offensive lineman slow to get up on the play.
And that is Jesse Gibbon, one of the backup O-linemen. And you talked about it too. You get a game like this where nothing much really changes in the standings. A bit for Winnipeg, nothing at all for Montreal after last night's victory by Hamilton. So Jason Maas just wants this team to be healthy and ready to go for the game that matters a whole lot more, the East Division semifinal next week.
Yeah, watching number 67 here. Jesse Gibbon, the veteran, former number 2 overall pick, and you saw he got kind of rolled up from behind there.
Jason Maas has got a new contract extension, he along with the general manager Danny Machocha, for the work they've done in Montreal. Maas in his first year. They finished second to the Argos, but they had a strong ending to the regular season. They won their final 5 regular season games, and then in his drive to be great for 8th, they won their 3 playoff games, including the Grey Cup over Winnipeg, as you see Gibbon heading off now, some pain to the sideline, but a Grey Cup title for Maas and the Alouettes, and wants to grind for 9. And by the way, if they can win today and then have to come back to do so, that would be 6 straight wins to end the regular season, and the goal being to win 9 straight, including the Grey Cup. But down here, though, to Winnipeg, 13-4. Opening possession, second half, and that's in the hands of Tyon Evans in his first CFL game. Getting a chance to go to work at running back. Saw some Stevie Scott earlier, so another carry for Evans there. And a first down.
Yeah, Evans, low center of gravity. Big, thick body, 225-pounder.
Inside the Winnipeg 50 now. Handing off again. Evans again. And Dexter Lawson among the Bombers in there, helping out. A pile of them now. Cam Lawson, too. Picks up a couple of yards.
You see Evans trying to follow the puller there. Hogan said don't. The Bombers able to close it up on him.
So gain of 3, second and 7. Bethel Thompson. The toss, it's caught, it's a first down, it's Mack again. Couple of catches this half now for Austin Mack as Montreal ventures a little further into the Winnipeg zone.
There you saw Demario Houston in coverage. Just giving him a little bit of a cushion. Mack takes advantage to curl in front of him.
Throwing again, he looks off to the right. It is caught by Evans. And he puts his head down with Evan Holm along there, and Jalen Smith too. And a good pickup by Evans to set up another second down and short for Montreal, close to the Alouette, or the Winnipeg 25.
And you get a little bit of a glimpse of the power of Evans on this play as they get him out in space. Good job by Evan Holm to hold on and make the tackle there, as he's a little out of his weight class in that matchup.
Shea Patterson is in for short yardage, and looks like he lunges across to get enough of it. Patterson called in to that role, signing with the team earlier this season after all the slew of quarterback injuries Montreal had to go through, including Alexander and Bethel Thompson, and short yardage had been handled by Caleb Evans. He got hurt, his season ending at BC Place back in the summer. So Patterson, the ex-Saskatchewan Rough Rider, actually started his career with the Alouettes and did not get the first down. So he stays in, and it's a 3rd and inches now for Montreal. Near the Bomber 25 drive at that time, lunges across, and it certainly looks like he has enough, although they're scrapping for the football there on top of that pile. It is indeed a first down for the Alouettes.
And here you get another look at Shea Patterson going over the top. The Bombers like a pack of hungry dogs going after that football, but Patterson doing a pretty good job clutching it in tight to his body.
Down to the 24 now. Bethel Thompson, the fake, stands in, flushed out, has some space, and does get rid of it for Philpott, who takes a hit from Jamal Parker. Out of bounds, it is no catch, incomplete pass.
Yeah, all kinds of time there for McLeod Bethel Thompson, just unable to find an open receiver. See Philpott's momentum had him well out of bounds there before the push from Jamal Parker.
Ball at the Winnipeg 24, off at the right hash for McLeod. Bethel Thompson getting the start, his 8th start of the season at quarterback for Montreal. Grey Cup champion with the Argos in 2022, and also as a backup to Ricky Ray back in 2017. And coming over after Cody Fajardo left. What it amounted to be a swap, really, about the time. Backup quarterbacks. Fajardo going to Edmonton, Bethel Thompson after 1 year there. On the run again, and he just got rid of the football as he was being tackled. Just as he was being taken down, and it's incomplete in the field goal situation coming up.
Yeah, Bethel Thompson knew he was in a race on that one. He's trying to protect the field position as best as he can.
And a good tackle there by one of the newcomers, the Bombers, Kydron Jenkins, 54. First year out of Purdue and making a CFL debut. Jose Maltos Diaz, the all-time leader in single-season field goals for the Alouettes. That came earlier in this game. Pumps another one through, and 3 more points. Flex the right biceps. Maltos Diaz from Monterrey, Mexico. 13-7. Winnipeg still leading. Even if Winnipeg wins today, this is a huge loss, Dwayne, back early in the game. Chris Trevler getting the start and injured on really a non-contact injury. There was contact there, but you can see him favoring his left leg, his left knee.
Yeah, just trying to make that plant to cut back inside the knee, giving out on him. Chris Trevler, who had worked so hard coming back from the knee injury. And yeah, I mean, the emotion is very real, right? This is a guy loved by his teammates, very hard worker.
Getting the start as they rested Zach Collaros, but just devastating for Strevler and the Bombers too. The emotion you can see after everything he did, as you say, to get back on the field after a knee injury a year ago. That kept him out of the late season, the playoffs, the Grey Cup. In his first year back with Winnipeg after being a part of this team in 2018 and 19. And Terry Wilson, who took over the backup duties and short yardage as well for Chris Strevler last year late in the season. Looks like he's thrust into that role again as Zach Collaros' backup.
Yeah, and you heard the panel talk at halftime. I mean, these reps, you anticipated Terry Wilson was going to play a bit today, but these reps become that much more meaningful now.
He's throwing again. If he can get away, he does. Takes off, uses his legs. We saw that in the first half to set up a touchdown. He would later score, and he has a first down close to midfield for Winnipeg. So Terry Wilson not afraid to use his legs, take off when the pressure is on.
Yeah, nice escape here as it looked like Wilson was in a little bit of trouble. Able to step up. It was a similar kind of play for Wilson that set up the Winnipeg touchdown in the first half. late in that second quarter. Flushed from the pocket, scrambling to put them in a goal line situation.
His running back is Matthew Peterson, whose carries account for more than half of Winnipeg's offense in this game. There's the ball now. Another good carry by Peterson. His first year out of the University of Alberta. And gets it close to another first down. It looks like it'll be a second and short coming up here for Winnipeg.
And you'll see it. Nice hole up the middle. Peterson just north-south on that play for that 9-yard gain.
Up to 50 yards carrying. On that second and short, just needed a yard.
A little physicality here.
And that was enough. Another first down. Bombers on the move. Their lead down to 6. If they win, we will wait and see what BC does later today. It's a game of interest in the standings regardless. Lions win, they get second place. The Lions lose and the Bombers go on to win this game. It's BC crossing over to Montreal next week, and Winnipeg will go to Calgary. Right down to the final game. Things still to be determined. The Montreal 46 and a 1st and 10. Terry Wilson faking to Peterson. Tries to evade the rush. Does for a moment, and he dishes it off down to the 40. And nicely done to get it into the hands of Gavin Cobb, who was inserted into the lineup last week against Saskatchewan with the injury to Nick Dembski, and he has the catch.
Yeah, I thought in this situation that Wilson might just be happy to escape the pressure, and this was going to be a throwaway, but able to find an open receiver, pick up a few extra yards on the play, put his team in a favorable second down situation here.
Gavin Cobb started his career with Edmonton, but back home, went to the University of Manitoba. Back to Peterson on a 2nd and 3. Has enough for another first down at the Montreal 35.
Well, Peterson certainly getting his touches in this regular season finale, and Bombers offensive line maybe building a little confidence against the Montreal front with the way they've been able to move that ball on the ground.
Well, I was going to say a reminder too who is not playing for Winnipeg. Their star left tackle Stanley Bryant out, Zach Collaros, Brady Oliveira, Nick Dembski. Moving here, we get a blitz coming. They pick it up. Time to throw. Heading to the end zone, but the closest is Tyrese Beverette. Cobb, the intended target, and the Alouettes have that well covered in the Montreal end zone.
Yeah, we haven't seen a lot of deep shots in this one as you keep an eye. Gavin Cobb working out of the slot. That Nick Dembski role, you know you're going to get some deep shots. But that one just off the mark.
Another one on that offense is the key player, Ontario Pokey Wilson, who had a touchdown last week against the Riders in that victory. He too is not playing in this one. Past the halfway point of the third quarter now. 13-7 Winnipeg. 2nd and 10. Terry Wilson, the 4-man rush, can't get away. The sack for Josh Archibald. That's his 2nd sack of the season in his first year with the Alouettes, and 3rd down coming up.
Yeah, 4th-year player, as you mentioned earlier, originally a 3rd-round pick of the BC Lions. Archibald coming off the left side of your screen. He's fighting his way through to the quarterback, getting a few more snaps today. Once again, as the Owls playing a lot of starters defensively, but looking to ease their workload a bit.
Sergio Castilla from 50 yards away. No. Put that one off the iron. And a dead ball. So he's 2 for 4 on the day, and that 50-yard try, missed one earlier from 58. At the distance, doink. 13-7 it remains. A few weeks ago, 40, I asked Jason Moss about the similarities between this team and the one 2 years ago. Called it eerily similar. Good start, real struggles in the middle, a long losing skid. They come out of it, and they were a tough team to beat. They had the momentum. They're hoping it's a similar story this time around.
Yeah, and one of the other similarities I would say has to do with the roster. If you remember 2023, guys like Darnell Sankey, Sean Lemon, they got added to the roster just before that win streak started. And I would say that the thing that sort of coincides with the start of the late season winning streak this year would just be getting guys back from injury, as they had a number of key players miss time.
Memories in Hamilton. That's a touchdown by Cole Speaker. They came back. Austin Mack, he had a big touchdown. So they started the second half with a 3-play drive that led to a touchdown too, and then Tyson Philpott in the game winner and left Winnipeg stunned. The Bombers part of their run to the Grey Cup, but it was the Alouettes beating them 2 years ago. And off the hands of Philpott there. One of the heroes of 23 for the Alouettes, but no catch there, and a third down coming up here from Montreal.
Yeah, with Bethel Thompson once again. Defenders surrounding him. That ball comes out a little wobbly. Tough flight perhaps for Tyson Philpott to track.
So Joseph Zima is in again. So the Alouettes have had momentum. It's a little trickier counting this game in their momentum should they go on to lose it, because it means absolutely nothing in the standings. And they get the big one next week, crossover game, East semifinal, back home in Montreal. And there's a good chance it'll be against this team, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Peyton Logan on the return, and he stopped in his tracks at the 35. Winnipeg, Manitoba, getting ready to host the Grey Cup for the first time in 10 years, and that is 22 days away. Terry Wilson thrust into quarterback for Winnipeg after that early injury to Chris Streveler, and tricky start there through the pick in the end zone of Marc-Antoine Dequoy, but he's been settling down.
Yeah, there have been some flashes. I mean, he had a good drive going before the Dequoy pick. Nice run here to set up his own touchdown plunge at the end of the first half. So obviously, young quarterback, second-year man, Terry Wilson. There are going to be some ups and downs along the way, some growing pains in terms of that development. Obviously, the hope is in terms of most of the critical throws to be made in the playoffs. They hope that guy, Zach Collaros, will be making them.
For now, it's Wilson, who hands off to Peterson. Left side, off tackle, and he's got some room to run. North-south. Matthew Peterson, and having a good afternoon here, and another first down on the ground for Winnipeg.
And Peterson, who sort of arrived in the CFL with a splash in the Bombers season opener, and Brady Oliveira was injured. Going for over 100 in that game.
And right now, 12 carries for 68 yards. Another 22 in the air, so 90 yards of net offense for Matthew Peterson in this chance to get some reps. And another chance there, although maybe a yard at most against that Alouettes defense. Josh Archibald, another guy getting a chance for more reps, and he's made some plays in this game.
We'll take a look back at Matthew Peterson's CFL debut. 23 carries, 130 yards. Including a couple of big ones against the BC Lions.
Up closer to midfield now for Wilson, and it's whistled up, flags out on this second down and 10.
Procedure, Winnipeg, number 68. 5-yard penalty, remains second down.
Which is about to become a second down and 15 just about here. Through the procedure call. Late third quarter. Final game, regular season, Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Montreal Alouettes. And a 6-point Winnipeg lead. They set up a screen to Peterson. Has a block from Gabe Wallace. Ball comes out. Alouettes appear to have it. They're still scrambling for it, but it was a lot of Alouette jerseys around and not a little fight for the football. Late quarter turnover here by the looks of things, although they still haven't sorted it out. There's a chance the Bombers got it back. Marc-Antoine Dequoy had a great shot at that ball. Coughed up by Peterson after he took that screen. But no. Fumble Peterson. And now the offense on the field for the Alouettes. Another turnover. Montreal takes over at the Winnipeg 51. Just 3 weeks away. Grey Cup 112 right here in Winnipeg. Let's head back to Brett.
Yeah, wild to think we're so close, Rod, and it's going to happen right here. But in the meantime, the Grey Cup's going on quite the journey, traveling to northern communities in Manitoba. That included Flin Flon, Churchill, to name a few. Now residents got the chance to take pictures with the Grey Cup. You might even notice a really cool shot of it with the polar bear. That's how you can tell how north you are there. Even got to enjoy some dog sledding. Now former Bombers defensive back Brandon Alexander was along for the ride in the tour. You guys mentioned 22 days until it's awarded here at this stadium, which I can imagine is probably going to be a little bit colder than it is today. I have to give a shout out though. My favorite part about the Grey Cup this year is the mascot, Maple the Beaver.
Can't get any more Canadian than that, than the Grey Cup itself. Brett, for sure. A lot of excitement building up, not only Winnipeg, Manitoba too. In general, it's McLeod Bethel Thompson completing that pass after the turnover and the fumble by Matthew Peterson. There's Charleston Rambo with a catch just inside the Winnipeg 30.
Yeah, Alouettes going for a big strike immediately following the turnover. Bethel Thompson is right on the money there. Good concentration from Rambo, taking a hit from Jamal Parker as he reels that one in.
Alouettes only down 6 points. Quickly, Philpott going nowhere. Tackled there by Shane Gauthier. And at linebacker for the Bombers. And that is quarter time. Through 3 quarters. The Alouettes trailed but this entire game. Pressing now to get a little bit closer in this regular season finale for both teams. Through 3 quarters, I don't want to say, let's just throw all these numbers out the window. However, we are looking ahead to the playoffs when we get through this, and it's just interesting because Winnipeg, there's a pretty good chance they're going to be playing this Alouette team again, and they're going to be a lot of different players in the lineup next week in Montreal.
Yeah, it has been this balancing act, certainly, I think, for both teams, knowing that seemed to be the most likely playoff scenario. So, yeah, you're trying to win, but you're also limiting what you're showing. So you're kind of sticking to the basics of your playbook, not necessarily pulling out all of the wrinkles in this ball game, regardless of which players you have out there executing.
And as you said, Mike O'Shea's approach is, we know we're going on the road for the playoffs. We know it's one time zone away. It's either going west to Calgary, it's either going east to Montreal. So he just wants to make sure either way has his team ready. But should they face the Alouettes again, neither team really showing a lot of their hand in this one. 6-point difference. Here comes Montreal with McLeod Bethel Thompson at quarterback, who just dumps it off to Tyon Evans, and a nice tackle coming in there by Nick Hallett. Well, they're one of the reserves in there at safety for Winnipeg with a good defensive play.
Yeah, Hallett, veteran special teams stalwart, terrific athlete. getting an opportunity to get some more snaps than usual on defense, making the most of it. We've seen him play in some defensive packages over the course of his career.
From 34 yards away, and Jose Maltos Diaz.
Timeout, Winnipeg.
Winnipeg calling the timeout. Maltos Diaz is 2 for 2 and looking to get a little bit closer to the all-time record for field goals in a season. You know, we're getting closer to something else too. Just realized this really would have been our last chance to get the Halloween gear out.
Well, now listen, you know I love Halloween.
Oh, absolutely.
I have been in contact with some of my people about our costumes for next year. I've also been in contact with the league about moving up the schedule so that Halloween falls a little more in the regular season as opposed to on the eve of the playoffs.
Best CFL and TSN costume last year had to be Kenzie Lalonde dressed up as Dwayne Ford when Winnipeg was playing in Montreal. That was epic. And it caught you off guard too, didn't it?
It really did.
Well, Maltos Diaz has another field goal. He is 3 for 3. So the all-time leader in Alouettes history in a single season, and gets that much closer to the 60 of Justin Medlock back in 2016. Another couple of chances and maybe get a shot at that record here in this final quarter. Tangerine Raptors basketball on TSN continues Wednesday. The Houston Rockets play the Raptors. Coverage getting underway at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific on TSN. This is a unicorn game, in so many ways. Although, you know, is it any different with the costume that you can see the face behind it there? You've got to be able to see where you're going, right?
Yeah, I still appreciate it.
Yeah. Some tough sledding inside. Darnell Sankey adding to his tackle total. Sankey came in at 96, looking at another 100 tackle season for the Alouettes.
And again, Sankey, one of the catalysts or solidifying forces behind that 2023 Grey Cup run.
And that is 100 officially for Darnell Sankey. So that's back-to-back years with the Alouettes. He's done it. His all-time high with the Saskatchewan Roughriders, he had 120 back in 2022. Darnell Sankey, big part of that Alouette defense. Quickly. And off to the side for the Bombers. That's Gavin Cobb. And excuse me for saying back home in Winnipeg. At his college days here, he's from Victoria, BC.
Yeah, he actually started his college career at Simon Fraser. You know,
it was Farhan Lalji pointing that out to me, by the way.
As I'm sure that SFU grad would.
Yeah.
But yeah, still a handful of guys in the league, with SFU having discontinued their program, but a handful of guys still in the league who played there at some point during their college career. Saw Jarrell Cummings suiting up for the Edmonton Elks last night.
Jamison Sheehan, it's nearly blocked. Does get it away. Caught by Charleston Rambo and gets it up to about the 27. So it's a 13-10 game. The Alouettes get the ball back. 12:18 in the clock here in the final quarter of the regular season for the Bombers and the Owls. How close to being blocked? Well, reasonably close. Final day of the regular season. Playoffs begin. They start playing for keeps next week, and it's still not decided yet, especially if Winnipeg wins, but this could be a playoff preview between the Alouettes and Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Yeah, interesting matchup all the way around between these two clubs. You have Davis Alexander, a first-time playoff starter against the well-seasoned Zach Collaros at quarterback.
Bethel Thompson gets rid of it, and coming in for it is Rambo. He does have a catch. Charleston Rambo reaching up for that one, and a first down for Montreal.
Well, Charleston Rambo goes high along the sidelines. Go and pull this one down. And a little tiptoe touch.
Nicely done by Rambo. Up to the 40. Charleston Rambo. McLeod, Bethel, Thompson. They're down by 3. They go back to the ground now, and that's Tyan Evans in his CFL debut, picking up a few more yards. First year out of Louisville.
And we're seeing Evans take more and more of the touches as this game goes on. Again, part of the managing the load of the starters. Stevie Scott played the early portion of this ball game.
He had 7 carries for 31 yards, and out of it, seeing Evans now. Bethel Thompson pressure, down he goes. And it's Kydron Jenkins again, making the most of his opportunity in his CFL debut. Jenkins with the sack.
There you see Jenkins from his DN spot, number 54. Get an opportunity in place of Willie Jefferson. Little hand slap there to keep Tiger Shanks, the tackle, from getting a punch on him.
Stops the Alouettes. Joseph Zima to punt it away. Peyton Logan back at the 16. Oh, a high tackle there. Marc-Antoine Dequoy takes him down, and a flag comes out for that. And once again, he's holding his hands up, wondering why the flag came out. Dexter Lawson, meanwhile, the injured Bomber, slow to get up.
Now you'll see Dequoy coming down in coverage. That's just
illegal block, Winnipeg, number 39. It's a 10-yard penalty, first down.
And you hear the penalty announced as number 39. I don't think it was.
Oh, so the flag, it's interesting because the way the flag came out, looking right at Dequoy, he tackled, and no, not a penalty, but it's another player called, Jalen Smith of the Bombers, for an illegal block. So Dequoy's had a couple of moments, as did we in this, where he's wondering,
what did I do?
Yeah, well, again, not a penalty against Marc-Antoine Dequoy. Bombers have to start deeper. Terry Wilson knocked down at the line, and it's deflected right back into the Bomber end zone. So what was the penalty on that punt? Have a look here. Jalen Smith.
And you saw Smith, a little bump in the back.
And he went right into the play with Dequoy right when the flag was thrown. That might explain why the...
yes, the curious timing.
The eye line of the official throwing the flag, looking right at it. Quickly, no, incomplete. That was on 2nd and 10, intended for Carrick Wheatfall. And 2 and out just like that. Winnipeg will have to punt it deep from their zone.
Yeah, that throw came up a little bit short. Opportunity here for the Alouettes to start in pretty good field position. And it continues to be Charleston Rambo handling most of the return duties here today.
Jamison Sheehan. More pressure in the punt, but again gets away. A good one too. Rambo. Flag does come out, and Sheehan is slow getting up. There was contact on the punter. I mean, the Alouettes have been bringing the heat, and that time they did get to him, and a flag does come out. Looks like this could be going against Montreal.
See, it looked like Sean Oakman suggesting the player was pushed into the punter, Jason Moss, supporting that position.
Roughing the kicker, Montreal, number 2. 15-yard penalty and an automatic first down for Winnipeg.
Yeah, it looked like Oakman coming in airborne, trying to get a piece of that one. You could argue from that angle that his path was changed a little bit by the blocker, but I don't know if that's going to be conclusive enough to change anything.
Well, it ends up being a first down Winnipeg, and they move him out to the 25. Jason Moss doesn't like it, but it's Bomber football with a 3-point lead. 9:19 and counting, and handing off Peterson. Wilson hands off to him, and Matthew Peterson, who's been their feature running back this entire game with Brady Oliveira resting, picks up a couple.
Peterson getting a break here. Fullback Michael Chris Ike remains in the backfield. We'll see if he lines up to actually carry the ball or if this is strictly about protection.
On a 2nd and long, 2nd and 8 for Terry Wilson. Time to the right. It is caught right up around the 35. Looked like it was caught. It ends up falling out and incomplete. Intended there for Carrick Wheatfall, and once again, Sheehan coming back on to punt it away.
Yeah, tight window throw here for Terry Wilson as Carrick Wheatfall is quickly converged upon by Cavianento as that ball arrives.
So Wilson heads off again. Rambo heads back for another return. This time inside his 40. Montreal just a field goal behind. The Alouettes can come back and win, then it is definite it will be Winnipeg next week in Montreal. Rambo on the 46 before he's pushed back by a blue and gold wall. If the Bombers can hang on and get this victory, well, we'll be waiting and seeing what the BC Lions do. Part 2 of the doubleheader coming up later today here on TSN. I have indeed, yes, touchdown Atlantic in 2022. And I know your father involved with Acadia University for many years.
Yes.
What was your dad's position at Acadia in Wilkville?
Well, he played football there.
He played, but involved in the. I thought he was also involved in. Well, he's in the Hall of Fame.
He is in the Sports Hall of Fame,
yes, that's right,
at Acadia. Yes, right. Home of the Axemen.
Yes, it was a touchdown Atlantic, both between the Riders and the Argos, 22, and then we were there in 23 in Halifax when those two teams played as well.
Drove myself to Wolfville.
Yes. Well, I know you have your own memories of playing football in Atlantic Canada, positive ones with Western, a couple of Atlantic Bowls. Positive in 89 anyway. Here's Bethel Thompson under pressure. He is taken down again. And it's Matthew Jaworski all fired up. He gets his first sack. These new additions on the Bomber defensive line, Kydron Jenkins and Matthew Jaworski, and both of them getting sacks in this game.
And here you see Jaworski standing up, far right side of your screen. Coming off the edge. As Bethel Thompson steps up, a little spin to the inside against Des Holmes, who's moved out to that left tackle spot. Give Nick Callender a break.
Alouettes drive stalls again. Zima again for Peyton Logan at the 20. Under 7 minutes to go in this fourth quarter. And the Bombers have it again. Well, they made some changes. Fresh faces in the lineup for this final game of the regular season. There's another name, Matthew Jaworski. CFL debut with a sack. It's been a very different year for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, but there are some things that they can certainly hang their hat on defensively and ranking up top in a number of categories, Dwayne.
Yeah, this is one of the things that has remained somewhat consistent about the Winnipeg Blue Bombers through the 5 consecutive Grey Cup appearances. As you see, Willie Jefferson refreshing his batteries pre-playoffs.
Well, Mike O'Shea talked about this. Lessons learned in 17 and 18. They had some good teams, but heading into the playoffs, thought they might have been tired. In 19, they rested players more. They got in third place, and they went on their run. And since then, breaking through, Michael Chris Ike inside the 20, and a stiff arm for DeCroix. He's taken down at the 10.
given that his only other carry this season was a 2-yard run, how about this element of surprise? Chris Ike finds a hole, and I mean, fullback in size, but this guy's got some wheels. He's got some jets, and you get a good look at it here. Chris Ike, the Delaware State product.
And as you say, rare is the chance to run with the ball, making the most of it. Gets another chance here on that 1st and 10. And the pile keeps moving, not going down without a fight anyway, and picking up a couple more yards.
Yeah, they don't all go for big gains. But yeah, this is a guy who was one of the stars of the CFL Combine in 2024. Just, 225-pounder, absolutely chiseled, and it was his movement test that caught everybody's eyes. Just an explosive athlete. As I said, great speed at that size.
And his role in the offense, primarily, but blocking back, but getting some touches. He's a look into the end zone for Cobb. No, not quite. Intended for Gavin Cobb and had a chance right in the corner of the end zone, but it falls incomplete.
Yeah, pretty nice toss here.
Pass interference, Montreal, number 12. Foul happened in the goal. Ball was placed at the 1-yard line. Automatic first down.
But a PA against Najee Murray, 1st and goal.
Here you'll see Cobb, who's going to work towards the corner. Murray just with a little hand on the hip. There you see, tug on the back of the jersey. Cobb still very nearly hauled that one in.
So it gets them down to the 1 on that penalty pass interference against Najee Murray.
Montreal
1st and goal.
is challenging the ruling on the previous play of pass interference.
Jason Moss doesn't agree. It's on the jersey tug and the right arm come across on Cobb's right arm just as the ball was arriving. Gonna have another look at it.
Another look. There you see the left hand, the little grab. Bit of a tug. I mean, we saw the fabric on the jersey. There was a grab just after the break. You can see there was another tug there just as the ball approached.
But given the timing of his right hand, the penalty would be based on the tug in the jersey, not with the arm coming over, would it? That timing looked good.
Yeah, that's what I would anticipate. Is it's about the grab that actually, it seems like nothing, but when you're running at full speed, kind of any force put on you in any direction is going to have an impact.
That was Alouettes defensive coordinator Noel Thorpe, understandably not agreeing with the call. See the tug in the jersey, that's it. Got the flag out.
Now, should these two teams meet again next week in the playoffs, would you imagine that the Najee Murray versus Zach Collaros game would draw our biggest ever viewership in Steubenville, Ohio?
It certainly should.
After review by the replay center, the calling on the field is overturned. There's no pass interference on the play. It'll be 3rd down, Winnipeg.
So interesting, ruling the Murray tug in the jersey, which was really the only thing being judged here, was not significant enough to call pass interference. By the way, Steubenville, Ohio. I remember talking to Najee Murray about this, where Zach Collaros was a star in high school, at a different high school, a few years ahead of Murray. So Castillo coming on now for a field goal. Instead of having the 1st and goal, Bombers settle for 3. Still a 1-score game, 16-10, Winnipeg.
Got us a barn burner. Big finish here.
Well,
no, it's a barn burner, Rodman. I know you were going to dispute that. Yeah. All right, good to see the boys going tarps off.
Nice enough day in Winnipeg that you can do that now. A few weeks, perhaps not. But coming up, BC Lions. Bottom line is this: if BC wins this game, the final game of the regular season, later today, BC gets second place, hosts the playoff game. But if they don't win, they're on the road to the playoffs. And it's either going to Montreal as the crossover team or going to Calgary. But right now, it looks like if with the Bombers leading, if they can hang on to their lead, the Lions would go from a shot at second place in the home playoff day to crossing over.
Sorry, could you repeat all the remaining scenarios again?
Well, you see, Wayne, it's about the three-way tie, and I don't even understand it myself. But if there's a three-way tie with Winnipeg, or no, Calgary be ahead. No, it's because of the head-to-head Winnipeg and BC. That's why. I'm all messed up here. There's no three-way tie. Calgary negated that last night. Let me get this all straightened out because now I'm confusing myself. Calgary won last night. So if BC loses and Winnipeg wins, they would be tied. But Winnipeg won the season series, so they would get third, and BC would go to Montreal and cross over.
Well explained, Roderick.
Is it? Well, I don't know why I threw the three-way tie in there. I was conditioned into thinking that before last night's game.
Because we've been hearing about that all week in the lead-up.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it'll be clear. More pressure on a punt, this time coming from Winnipeg. Zine was able to get it away. Picked up by Nick Hallett, and a flag out there as the returner, Peyton Logan, was chasing it down as well, but Hallett takes it. Flag's coming out.
Hallett looking to draw that.
No yards, Montreal, number 34. 15-yard penalty, first down, Winnipeg.
Take a look. Hallett with the ball on the ground knows he can catch a couple of Alouettes. Everybody's trying to stay 5 yards away from the returner. Hallett grabs that one and gets his team a few extra yards in the penalty.
By the way, talking about crossover possibilities, it's been pointed out this week, Winnipeg has never crossed over, although much of the time since the crossover came into effect, they were in the East Division.
Yeah.
Up until 10 years ago.
Yeah, Winnipeg has represented the East in the Grey Cup 7 times.
Right.
Now, the thing that's interesting to me is, you know, as they go to play in the East bracket, they'll be the 3rd seed in the East bracket. Of the 7 times they've represented the East, because they were in the East Division at the time, the 7 times they made it to the Grey Cup, they always finished in 1st or 2nd. They were never the 3rd seed.
Right.
So they've never had to win 2 games on the road in the East to get to the Grey Cup.
In the East, no. Now in the West, of course, in 2019 they did, but no, not in the East. And we're not saying they're crossing over yet. Depends on BC later if they can win this game. There's Chrisite. Another touch for Michael Chrisite for that big carry. Last possession, getting it up to around the 50. And a 3rd down coming up. So 3-minute warning given. Winnipeg hanging on to a 6-point lead. We'll also look ahead to game 2 of the doubleheader in Saskatchewan. The Lions trying to get home field. We were just talking about the Bombers having to go on the road in the playoffs 6 years ago. Playoff drive started in Calgary. McMahon Stadium, Nick Dembski with the touchdown there. Zach Collaros just recently added to the Bombers. Hits Darvin Adams there. And Winnipeg won that game. It's a possibility they're going to Calgary this time around. A healthy Chris Strebler, too, is just a big part of that offense. Awful to see the injury to him earlier in this game. Winnipeg football. So possibly going to Calgary, possibly going to Montreal. We still don't know yet. Under 3 minutes to go in this regular season finale. And a punt coming up here for Jamison Sheehan. Takes a roll near the goal line, but it stopped shy of it. Well placed by Sheehan. Cabianento took a pop, and he stayed on his feet, and he ends up being tackled by Ethan Ball. A couple others in on special teams there for Winnipeg. But how about the placement on that punt by Jamison Sheehan, just like he drew it up?
Well, rather magnificent. And again, it's the style of the Aussie punters with that end-over-end kick that kind of sits down rather than bouncing into the end zone when you get that great placement.
Just like he drew it up.
That is the punter equivalent of a touchdown.
The moment he's enjoying. Again, it looked like he was shaken up a little earlier on that roughing the kicker call earlier in the quarter. But Alouettes down 6, starting deep. It's Evans, the ball carrier for Montreal. And Jamal Woods says no further after a couple of yards.
Yeah, we've seen the Alouettes with a number of rough starts in terms of field position in this ball game. Just tremendous placement there.
Jason Moss and the Alouettes came to Winnipeg not knowing if they would have a chance to play for first in the East before Ottawa took on Hamilton last night. The Ticats won the game. They clinched first, so made it academic coming in for Montreal, knowing they're playing next week at home in the semifinal in the East against the crossover team from the West. Cole Speaker, no good. Third down, and they'll have to punt it away from the red zone again.
Meanwhile, away from the ball, Austin back in a little bit of a collision. In traffic there. I think the defender was just trying to get out to his coverage responsibility.
Well, 1:43 on the clock. Deep as they are, they're going for it. Might as well. Won't affect their standing or what's coming next week. So let's see. Bethel Thompson can't get rid of it. Ball's on the turf. Well, they're turning it over. Whistle dead. And they turn it over on downs. First and goal coming up here for Winnipeg with 1:37 on the clock.
Limited options here for the Montreal Alouettes. Winnipeg just sends 4. But those 4 get it done. Matthew Jaworski, Jake Thomas combining to bring down the Alouette quarterback.
So looking like the first and goal from the 5, the Bombers are going to win this game, improve the record to 10-8. 10 wins, tied with BC. The Lions looking for their 11th win later today in Saskatchewan. Handing off to Peterson. They get a field goal here at this point in time. It becomes a 2-score game. So
timeout, Montreal.
Ball security always of the essence, but to your point, even more so here is make sure that at the very least you still have a chance to kick that field goal. Make Montreal's climb a little steeper. You know, Mike O'Shea talked this week about the fact that, you know, the approach is always control what you can control, and there is only so much of the playoff equation at this point in week 21 that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers could control in terms of where they would end up. But for Mike O'Shea, just trying to win football games, which is always the week-to-week mission.
Terry Wilson, quarterback, Matthew Peterson again. Pull him down towards the end zone. He gets down around the 1:25 on the clock. But the interesting thing for these two teams is they assuming Winnipeg hangs on and gets the win, they've got to wait another few hours to know who their opponent is. Yeah. It might be each other. Then again, Montreal, if the Lions don't win in Saskatchewan, then Montreal gets BC next week, and it'll be Winnipeg going to Calgary. Yeah. It all depends on BC.
Well, this is it. This is it.
And Saskatchewan, for that matter. I mean, but they're already locked into first in the West.
Yeah, I mean, throughout the weekend, there have been external factors at play, so to speak, for both of these teams. All you can do is play and try to win and see where you end up.
So Castillo's out. Looking to add another. Make it a 2-score game. 1:15 on the clock. Still ticking away. For 5 becomes 4 for 6. 3 more points. 19-10. Winnipeg. Looking to leave this stadium and a season of sellout crowds behind with a victory. And more importantly at this stage now, hoping they still have one more game in this stadium this season. We shall see 3 weeks away. A hope shared by Jason Moss and the Alouettes. And could they be standing in each other's way next week in Montreal?
Yeah, 2 head coaches kind of started their coaching careers together as members of Scott Milanovich's staff, the Toronto Argonauts. Great respect between these two.
They won a Grey Cup together as assistants in Toronto in 2012. 3 years later, when the Grey Cup was here in Winnipeg, Jason Moss was the offensive coordinator of the Ottawa Red Blacks. They took on the Edmonton, then Eskimos, in that Grey Cup game, a close one. The last time, the first one here at Princess Auto Stadium, and the last one here in Winnipeg. And Willie Jefferson, by the way, was victorious in that game as a member of Edmonton. Got his first Grey Cup ring right here in this stadium, long before his days playing for the Bombers. Charleston Rambo. Oh, what a hit! Coming in hard. Again, one of the newcomers. That's Kamari Munyei-Bailey on special teams with a big hit on Rambo.
I mean, you knew that some of these guys making their CFL debuts today would be looking to make an impression. I think Munyei-Bailey made his impression loud and clear on Charleston Rambo.
A global player taken in the global draft. He went to Weber State in Utah, but he's from Birmingham, England. 57 seconds. 9-point game. Bethel Thompson throwing, and it is caught too. And good yardage after the catch for Tyson Philpott to work it up to midfield.
Well, Alouettes hustling up to the line. McLeod Bethel Thompson directing traffic.
Traffic again for Austin Mack, and that squirts out, incomplete.
Mack going up to get that one in traffic. Fortunately able to get himself out of harm's way. Ethan Ball. The rookie finished up his college career at University of Calgary. 6th round pick this year, was coming in like a heat-seeking missile.
Pressure on Bethel Thompson. And it's Kydron Jenkins again. We saw a sack earlier, but you talked again about on this Winnipeg defense, all these guys getting their first taste of CFL action in this game.
They are hungry.
Kydron Jenkins has had a good game.
Jenkins, Jaworski, Munyei-Bailey. All stepping up here today with the veterans Willie Jefferson and James Vaughters charging up for the playoffs.
Bethel Thompson on 3rd down again. No, another turnover on downs. Bethel Thompson remains down.
Yeah, he took another shot from Jenkins coming off the edge.
standing in for Davis Alexander, who initially was to start this game, and Jason Moss decided better of it. Give his prize starter a break before the playoffs, and victory formation now for Winnipeg. Finishing up at home with the dream of one more home game in 22 days. One more game in the regular season to follow. Mosaic and Regina, the Riders and the BC Lions. And it'll take that game to finalize the playoff matchups. Right down to the wire we go before knowing who's meeting who next week. Last play. Two playoff-bound teams still unsure who their opponent will be next week. Will it be a rematch between O'Shea's Bombers and Jason Moss's Montreal Alouettes? Strong possibility, as they'll wait and see and not know for another few hours.
The playoff matchups, not surprisingly, coming right down to the final game of the regular season. BC Lions and Saskatchewan Roughriders, determining how things will shake out in the East and West Division semis.
They could be standing in each other's way, both trying to ultimately get back here. Winnipeg Blue Bombers have never been a crossover team. We'll wait and see what the BC Lions do in Saskatchewan. Montreal Alouettes, they'll be hosting the East semifinal. Playoffs begin next week in the CFL. Join us then. Thanks for watching Today in Winnipeg, and have a great day, everybody.